Well, welcome everyone. We are here at our biweekly webinar hosted by the Net Effect. I'm Tim O'Brien. I'm the host today. I'm one of the founders and CEO of the Net Effect. We're here to unlock the secrets to streamlined project management in Canadian construction. We have 3 expert project management tactics for Canadian construction businesses today. Um, the net effect. Let's talk about the net effect first. Quickly, an introduction of us, who we are, what we do. We've been helping AEC businesses with the goal of being more profitable and efficient. And how do we do that? Well, we help find the best in class technology that fits your construction business. We are, whether that's all new stuff, or we retweak, or we realign, or we help connect the software that you already have and help augment it one way or the other to create a really cohesive tech stack. And that's what we're currently talking about today, and that is communication, integration, and automation. Those are the things that we do best. Audrey is our leading expert and one of our project managers here at the Net Effect. She's been with us for about a year now, and she's an entrepreneur. She's run an event production business. She currently owns a restaurant in the Montreal area. She sits on her Regional Chamber of Commerce's Economic Development Committee. She's working on her Master's of Information Technology, and she puts that together with her immense interest in everything outer space, with a focus on technology in the cyberspace and outer space, including GIS tech and AI. And maybe what's most relevant to what we're talking about today is she's been in system architecture for 10 years. And what that means is creating functional and comfortable software. So Audrey is here to tell us more about some of our techniques and tactics. Audrey, hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Tim. Hi, everybody. Nice to be here today. I'm very excited to share with you those 3 pillars that we want to call them, 3 pillars to project management success. So we will get started. The first thing that I do want to talk about is how the digital landscape and construction landscape has changed in the last couple of years. If you've been around for the last couple of years, you may have heard of something called COVID. That stuck around a couple of years. And it changed the way that we operate a business. It changes a lot of things. It changed a lot of things for small to medium-sized businesses. So notably, we see a lot more labor shortages, different ways of workforce management, supply chain. We're talking about supply chain resilience. There's more emphasis on health and safety, and there's new technology. So there's a bunch of new tech that has come out. We've heard about AI a lot in the last year, and even more before that. BIM is something that's also coming. So building modeling. We've got AR and VR. These are all new tools that have recently come out into the landscape and come into conversation, especially on construction sites, that can be utilized to optimize and streamline a lot of your processes, regardless of the specific stream that you're working in. So all that kind of accumulates into what we call digital transformation, and the construction industry's digital transformation is really just getting started. We got a bit of liftoff in the last 2 years, but we're really just getting started towards implementing these new technologies and leveraging these new technologies to make use of them, especially for project management. And
I like
so,
how you snuck in the little outer space reference there too. I told you she loves outer space.
yeah, exactly. So one way that we're going to do that, like how can we address this digital transformation? It's kind of what we culminated today. We've synthesized all of that to address it in 3 different pillars. So we've got communication, integration, and automation for you today that we'll dig a little bit deeper into, so that you can understand a little bit more how you can apply that to project management, and utilize it as best as you can, for your own business. So I do want to start with an image. What does this evoke to you? So to me, this evokes frustration. And Tim, have you felt this as a business owner yourself?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's absolutely. I was a small business owner. I owned a construction business for years, and paperwork and technology was always a struggle.
I mean, it is as a business owner, right? You're constantly being, bombarded with information. You have to keep track of accounting. You have to keep track of what's happening in the field. You have to be on the ball. You're juggling with safety and managing the overall satisfaction of clients. There's just a lot of stuff for you to do. So if there are tools that can be utilized to simplify your life, of course, you want to have access to those tools because it can be exhausting to just be constantly having to keep up with all of these different things, right? So moving on to my next slide. I just wanted to put something fun in there. These darn cartons are just so flanging hard to open, so there's got to be a better way. And there is. That's what we're looking here. So the three pillars of project management that we've talked about a little bit, you've got communication. So what does that mean? It means eliminating silos, centralizing client information. We're saying client information here, but it can be stakeholder information as well. So stakeholder information can be subtrades, it can be, GCs. Not everybody is operating in the same way, and not everybody is doing B2B, but B2C. So, centralizing your project information, I think, is the key here to understand. Keeping the history in one place for easy access, super crucial, right? Integration. So integration, what does that actually mean? You may have heard about it, but you may not know how to actually, how to leverage it. How does that actually work for you? So integration can be a variety of things, but mainly here we're talking about connecting different systems together that you might be utilizing. For example, if you're using a financial system like QuickBooks, you'll want to be able to connect it with another system that you might be doing some reporting with, or a CRM or a project management tool. So that's what we mean by integration. And then finally, we get to our third pillar, which is automation. So automation, it can be a very big, scary word because it does fit into the artificial intelligence category. But automation can be really simple. It doesn't have to be complicated. Sometimes it's just about making those interesting connections, making those that information workflow be a lot smoother, and automating simple tasks like scheduling client times, reminders, and status updates. It doesn't have to be complex. It can be a lot simpler. I think the word sometimes is scarier than what it actually means and what it can actually do for you. Now, the order in which I've placed these is very deliberate. You start with effective communication. You start with a central, what we call a central repository, or just a central place where you're storing your information. From that point on, you go to integration. So once you know where you're storing your information, then you can integrate it better, right? Once you have that integration going, then you can start to do that automation. So it's a very deliberate order of operations, if you will. Alrighty. So this is a common system architecture that we see very often. A system architecture is just all the tools that you're utilizing or all the systems that you're utilizing. This is a very common one that we see for estimating and dealing with project management. So somebody's going to be using QuickBooks, for example, a lot of manual processes in place. You have time tracking that maybe is coming through text messages, maybe phone calls, maybe through Excel. Somebody's gathering that data. It's being input into an accounting system, a payroll system. QuickBooks is a very common one. Others can be using Sage. And so, yeah, so this is a very common kind of thing that we've seen recurring. And inventory management is maybe done through Excel. The estimation process has a lot to do with maybe one person that has most of the costs in their head, or it's in an Excel sheet. And maybe it might have a very elaborate, you might have a very elaborate system through files and networks, for example, that you've elaborated over the years through Excel. You're doing your POs through Outlook, maybe through phone calls as well. the way that you're organizing your projects, through Excel or through email. And then you're communicating internally and with your clients, either through email, through phone, or through text messages. So a very common way of doing business. The problem is that your information is siloed here, right? So the information can't go from one place to another, and you don't really have access to real-time management. It's a lot of maintenance to do that real-time management, right? Tim, this is a structure you've seen often, right?
Yeah, this is really common. Honestly, well, I've worked even recently with companies that are 60 million, 200 plus employees, and they're estimating with Excel. Everything's siloed. Information always has to be transferred manually and re-entered in all the different silos. Very common. There is a level of organization and a level of digital adoption and it's the kind of the first stage. And we've been doing this for a long time. And I mentioned I had my own construction business, and that was probably in the early 2000s. I was already using Excel. So that's 20 plus years ago. There are now better solutions, and that's what we're here to talk about.
Exactly. So often what we're going to hear is that there's templates that are being done, right? Oh, we have all these templates and these templates are really working for us, which is fine. However, what happens if there's a mistake? What happens if you invert a number because you were doing something else at the same time, which happens. So these are the kinds of risks that you can see with Excel. So this is where going digital could really be a game changer and really help out so that you could have a more successful implementation.
Yeah,
So
we call this manual processes. This is,
yeah,
although it's Excel, it's Outlook, it's different systems, but it's pretty much a manual process. You're not using pen and paper, but it's not far off.
yeah, exactly. So we do want to share with you a story. So we have a client that we've been working with for about a year. And I think that's really going to help demonstrate what can be achieved from going from that kind of system architecture to something that's more functional, and just being smoother for dealing with projects. So we've been dealing with this client for about a year. What began the process is that they were doing kind of the same thing as I just showed you, very much Excel based, with QuickBooks, with some emails and some automations in their Excel, but nothing to write home about. And they needed something just more functional. It just wasn't working for them. They needed to save more time. It took them about 2 to 3 weeks to transfer a client onboarding process. It was just a long time from the moment that the client came in, asked for information, they built the quote, they made sure that the quote was right, sending it off. That whole process was 2 to 3 weeks. And so what we needed to find is a solution. So of course, this is a company, specifically a renovation company dealing with B2C, so dealing with direct consumers. So it may be a little bit different. Obviously, there's a lot more to it than that, but in this case, that's the case we're dealing with. So we needed to look for solutions to complete a remote renovation design, to make interactive consumer product selections. So we needed to automate those things so that it was less consuming for the team. They're working with a lean team, so a very small team, to complete these projects. The quotations needed to be done, in real time with real calculations right then and there, without it having to take, 2 to 3 days to think about it, look at the history, that kind of process that's very manual based. And so what we started looking at is implementing small things first. So we implemented a CRM. We implemented an automated scheduling system. We automated the process from the minute that the clients select the products all the way to the invoicing. So we automated little things one step at a time. And the project right now, we're heading towards the total time from the quotation process, the initial lead demand, so that when the client comes in and asks for information, all the way to onboarding, full onboarding and cash payment, a total time of 3 hours. So that's huge savings, right? You're going from a 2 to 3 process all the way to 3 hours of time being taken to complete the same tasks, but just a lot faster. So it's saving you time, it's saving you money, and it's making sure that your team that's in place can address other things, right? They can do other things while all this manual office work and administrative work was being done. So that's one of the main examples that we use when we want to talk about what integration and automation and effective communication can do. Well, it can really benefit you and your business operations and profitability. So let's dig into the first pillar, communication. So it's multi-leveled. Communication is not just one thing. There's internal communication, for example. So tracking office requests or field requests that are going to be coming in. That connection between the field and the office is the most complicated one that we often see because often the information that's happening on the field doesn't necessarily make it to the accounting team, for example. So that data collection in the field is crucial, and it can really be a game changer on site if you have a reporting mechanism that can be very easily transferred to the office team or to the accounting department. So every business is set up differently, but definitely that reporting we've seen as being a huge difference, right? It's a game changer.
Yeah, that's the one thing that I talk to a lot of our clients about who don't have field reporting is the adoption of something in the field where your staff are entering their location, the job they're on, the tasks that they're doing, how many hours they're doing against those tasks, uploading photos, whatever it is, reporting back to the office. And if you have a staff of 50 in the field and they're all reporting 2, 3, 5 times a day based on the different tasks that they're doing, multiply that by those 50 people, and that's data collection points. The more data that you have and that communicating that live information, that data back to the office gives the office and the back office that insight. And it's you can't have time cards that come in once a week on paper or texted randomly. You don't get that same insight, and then you have to re-enter the data. So that communication is very powerful.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've heard of stories where the time cards are being kept like on a piece of drywall or on a piece of wood and being, taking a picture and then sending it to the accounting team. So, having tools that do that directly on site, it's not a lot more trouble, right? To just do it directly on an iPhone or on whatever you have at hand on site, and then it being automatically relayed to the office team because it's right in. It's a cloud-based system, right? So it's automatic communication. So to give you an example of what a reporting can look like, it can be as granular or as large as you need it to be. There's very different systems that are out there. This is a specific example from a plumbing company using the application called Raken. So they have work logs, they have photos, they have the date, they have the job number, they have time cards with specific cost codes associated to them. So it can be very granular. They get to the materials, they're tracking work log photos of everything that could have happened on site or specific pieces that they want to share. There's the general notes, there's equipment if there was any, and you have the site safety. So safety we were talking about is, getting super important for compliancy reasons. Obviously is one of the first points that we get, but as well just so that you can keep track of that. And offer a better quality of life for your workers as well, right? So you have quality control, you have surveys that you can do. These incident reports, for example, can be directly linked to a project. So if you do get an audit, makes it, a lot faster and a lot simpler. We've had a webinar previously with our partners Corefix. Corefix does that as well. So those are the kinds of tools that you can have that really simplifies your life for a lot of reasons, for project management being one of them, but it's not exclusive to project management. It's also effective for safety management as well. So this is an example of that. I do want to go back and share with you the second level of communication that you can have is stakeholder communication. So that's dealing with your clients, your subtrades, your general contractors, your suppliers. Through email back and forth, it can get a little bit messy, right? It's hard to keep track of that. Maybe you have folders and maybe you're organizing it and keeping track of that. But with the influx of information coming in, it can get messy really fast, and it can be difficult to track, what supplier does that go to? What project does this particular PO go to, or whatnot, right? It can be hard to track. So having a CRM can really be effective. To a CRM is a customer relationship manager. We like to call it a stakeholder relationship manager because it's not exclusive to clients, but you essentially get the whole history of information, any communication that you've had with that particular stakeholder is going to be there.
Yeah.
So
So I'm jumping in. Sorry, Audrey.
go
A
for it.
client, and where I've seen this really powerful for our clients and even for us, the email chain. There's a email chain from a client and you have one person on the team that's leading it. It starts off with whoever the salesperson is and doing the estimates. And then once it's handed over, then the contract supervisor or the project manager, whoever is looking after that, can see all of the emails. They don't have to give them a call. Things don't have to get forwarded. They just go to their profile in the CRM. They find that client. They can see all the communication that's happened. Then it's all tracked in that one place. It's all got visibility. The entire team can see all the communication, all of the any documents that have been sent to them, everything that's been shared with them, so they can all be on the same page. And it organizes it in that one location. It connects everybody's email, whether that's Gmail or Outlook. It's all connected into the CRM so that you can see everything that's happening. And in fact, prior to all of that, it creates sales processes for the sales team if you have a sales team. But really, it's one great way to really organize all of that those emails and communication.
Yeah, and it helps transition from one team to the next as well. So we've seen it being super effective for that. If you do have a sales team, for example, handing it over to the project management team, well, at least there's that connection. There's going to be that history that's there. It ends up eliminating information silos, which is something you'll hear us repeat a lot. And you have heard us talk about since the beginning of this presentation. But eliminating those information silos is super important. You get more transparency across your team and just more effective communication if they have access to everything centralized in one space. Now, we do want to show you what that looks like. So I will show you that. And there you go. So this is an example using HubSpot. So there's several things that you can have access to. You have the email thread. See over here, you have a sample of a phone call that was made. You can track, you can put any notes. You can put follow-up tasks, for example, in there. You really just have a wholesome overview of everything that's happening with that client. You can schedule further meetings. You can start tickets. You can even track, where you're at in a project with somebody, with a client, so that you at least know where it is, where you're at there. So it's very, very effective. You can have access to all of your clients like that. You can see the hit. So if you, for example, had a job with this client 4 months down the road or a year down the road, you can still have access to that. So it really does give you that full history of the client without you having to switch in and out of a system.
You can see on the right column, because on the other right column, as you scroll down, you can see they've made payments. There's attachments there, so that if they've sent you anything or you've sent them anything, everything lives in one place, and you don't have to go searching all over the map. If this is your client, here's all the communication. Here's everything that's been done with them.
Yeah, you can even put invoices. You could technically set up payments here. So There's just a lot of things that you can leverage. Now, not all CRMs look like this. Some of them are going to be a little bit simpler, but usually the goal of a CRM is really to centralize all of your communication streams. That can also include social media and text messages. So there's different CRMs that do different things, but it does also communicate. It can also communicate that information.
Integration. There's
Yeah.
lots of integrations with CRMs, and which creates automations. And there's ways to automate your CRM as well.
Yes. And so one of the common misconceptions is actually that a CRM is only utilized for marketing purposes, for example. And it's not. There's a lot more that can be done with a CRM.
And it should be said too that there's a lot of construction management software out there that has basic functionality of CRMs to help you consolidate that within one system if you don't need that deep level of functionality that a HubSpot or a High Level or something else like those other specific CRM project softwares have. There are many that integrate CRM functionality within the construction management software.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tim was just mentioning integration. So we get to our second pillar, integration.
Segue. Nice.
Yeah, exactly. A very nice segue. So there's many reasons for considering integration. We were just talking about eliminating data silos. So that's one of the main reasons is to enable all of your systems to talk to each other and avoid having to repeat that information. You want to enter the information once, one point of entry, one point of exit, and not have to repeat yourself into redoing the same tasks. So integration also reduces the risk of errors. We were talking about the Excel files that, if you invert the numbers, for example, and all that stuff. Well, integration can help streamline that flow from the initial estimation that you're going to do all the way to that invoice at the end, all throughout the project cycle. And so that's the goal. The ultimate goal of integration is to make sure that everything is talking to each other and that you don't have to enter information twice. You also want usable data. Now, that's underrated very often because you have all these systems, you have all this data being aggregated and created actively as you are utilizing systems, but is it usable? Can you actually do something with it? Can you take decisions? Can you actively see what you have in inventory, for example, if inventory is part of your business structure? These are all the kinds of things that you want to be able to leverage so that the information you have is usable and you can apply it to future projects. It can also strengthen your stakeholder engagement, right? So you don't have to repeat information or ask again and say, hey, we're missing this. We're not really sure. We need more information for whatever reason. You want to have that information stream throughout your whole project flow and not have to repeat yourself because the information didn't make it to the right place or the right silo. So that's what can happen when you have a bunch of data silos, is the information might not have made it from sales all the way to the field. So that's how that can help. So this is what that can concretely look like. You might have an ERP, you might not. An ERP is an enterprise resource planning system. It can be a construction management system. It's really just a central place where you'd operate and have everything integrated in one. You see there a CRM. You can see the finance software. So you might have QuickBooks or Sage, or you might have a field reporting tool that's there. So these are all your sources, which then needs to be connected together. So you might have no code integration. So there's tools like Zapier. We have OnTracker that we're going to show you in the next section as well. That basically helps you make those connections. You can pick what information you need and share where it's going to go. You might have custom API integration. So a custom API would have to be done with a developer or a development team. You might have native integration. So when you're looking at software, that's something to really consider, right? Because if the software doesn't integrate with what you already have in place, doesn't integrate with your financial software, for example, it can be really a problem. In the end run, you're going to have an issue with that. You won't be able to make those connections. You'll have to repeat that information, re-enter it, and it's just more work when if you had a native integration included in that software that works for you, then you wouldn't have to deal with that. So what we mean by native integration, we mean that it's directly in, it comes with the software. So you might, for example, you might pick a construction management software. You'll have a section where it says integration, and usually they'll have a series of integrations there. So that's how the integration part becomes effective. You can have maybe a central system that's going to be be used as a central repository where you have all your client information. Then you'll have the business intelligence tools that'll track that, and you'll see that in the form of a dashboard or report. So that's what a business intelligence architecture can look like. So AI, there's a good question there. How does AI help with project management, right? So AI fits right into here. So AI, artificial intelligence, can be utilized, is part of integration and automation in a way, right? So we often don't think about it that way, but it can really be useful there. So AI is going to be really beneficial in terms of specific softwares, organizing the notification systems, right? All those automated tasks at the back end that are happening that you don't have to schedule manually or you don't have to manually do yourself. That is part of an artificial intelligence structure, a business intelligence architecture.
Yeah, and then to kind of talk more about that AI in
Yeah.
construction software, there's a couple of different companies that we've worked with and we've seen that are utilizing AI. One specifically called Flowly that is utilizing AI for construction. So there's text messages. Through text messaging, you give a command or you take some notes or what have you, and it will automatically through AI create an automation to notify somebody or to fill out a timesheet or there's all sorts of different ways that you can imagine that can be utilize AI. But then just the other day I was looking at how Company Cam, which is a great little product that is really just utilizing your phone and it organizes your phone, it geolocates where you are, etc. They're now utilizing AI so that you can walk around, take pictures of a job site and dictate into the phone straight into the app as you're going around just taking pictures and saying this scaffolding needs to be maintained or this part isn't finished yet, and then it'll create a report that has all of the pictures and then the notes that you were dictating to it in a nice little report, and then it sends it off. So AI is integrating into all sorts of different construction software daily, and they're rapidly using different tools to make it more efficient for their software.
Yeah, absolutely. We've seen AI being used as well on the estimation front. So, for example, with plans and 3D markups, for example, there's new tools there. Like Stack CT is one of them. There's Toggle AI that's used. They're essentially making that the estimation process is just a lot simpler. It can calculate in real time those measurements and just make it a lot smoother for you to build your estimation. So it is being utilized in several different ways. It's matching the right product that you need for those different stages that you need. But lots of AI, even in project management, creating Gantt charts, for example, right? That's no longer a manual process. That's something that can be absolutely automated. We were talking about Flowly, but Flowly is a good example of that, right? Creates it on the basis of text messages that you're sending to update a project.
Yeah.
And it's going to create a nice Gantt chart almost.
I think every software company is
Yeah.
looking at AI and how can we utilize AI to make our software more effective, more efficient, easier to use.
Yeah, there's a lot more to it than just ChatGPT, which is the common AI we're hearing about
Yeah.
lately. There's a lot more to it than that, and it's not just text generating, for example, generative AI. There's a lot happening on the automation front, which is where we're heading. We're heading in that direction. And so we did want to bring this up. This is what we call mapping, mapping the data sources. We're doing some data mapping essentially. Now it's coming out a little bit smaller than I intended that to come out. But it's about tracking what sources of information you want connected together. So in this instance, you'll connect all of the time cards. For example, you'll want certain information to be related for your payroll. And so we've got here different sources, what the process is, and really mapping what information you'll need to extract for it to work out for you. And Tim, maybe you can talk a bit about the process.
Yeah. Yeah. So each of these, you've got inventory, the CRM at the top here. So what information when you get a new client, where does that go? Well, some of the information goes to estimating to start that, and then as well creates, a new client in QBO. And then, you look at the main hub and the source of everything is the project management software over here, and how that information, it collects time cards from up in your timesheet software up here. So you can see the connections down into cost controls. And then you've got some back and forth here between your cost controls, your cost of goods sold, and your cost controls in the project management. So all of that data, every little different type of data needs to either go one way or the other way, or both ways. There's push, there's pull. And when you look at all of your software, it's important to understand all of those connections. And we find that this is a really great way to map things out, so you can brainstorm and say, well, this information needs to go here on a weekly or a monthly or instantaneous basis, and how all that information needs to be shared. And utilizing this was done in a Miro board. Miro.com is a great little tool that we utilize a lot. So that helps everybody to understand and clearly see what information goes where, so that you can create those automations and those connections, whether it's API or native integrations.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really necessary for project tracking, for example. Because, if I boil this back down to a concrete example for you on a project management front, when you're tracking a project, you've got a lot of aspects to it, right? That you need to track. You've got the financial aspect, but that comes in the forms of maybe POs, maybe inventory that you already have, time cards, equipment, rental of equipment. All that management needs to be done and kept and kept in one place, right? Where you have to be tracking it. So you might have different sources that are feeding that information. So you might have a field reporting tool. You might, you might have time cards that are elsewhere. All of that needs to connect in one place so that you can keep track of your project, right? So mapping what needs to be integrated is really crucial, so that you can end up with a system that works for you. And this is going to be a custom system for each business, right? There's no one system that works for everybody. Your business is different from others. Everybody has a unique way of working. So it's really important that we can map that system to make sure that the integrations are working for you. I think that the main message is that those integrations, those integrations need to be customized for your need, right? Everybody works a little bit differently. So, yeah, refer to accounting app. It's an accounting app and not QBO is QuickBooks, but it's an accounting app. So that central accounting application needs to have access to all of those financial information that may not be flowing through your accounting software from the get-go.
And one thing we always look at is creating a firewall here between accounting and all the other softwares to ensure that, pardon me, that there's no, the software isn't messing with your accounting, right? You want to ensure that the finance team, whether it's your bookkeepers or accountants, have full control over your accounting processes, and that these are some of them aren't going to mess with it. Like if you're just sending, a new client information into your finance software, that's fine. but you don't want field staff making entries into the accounting software without first somebody in the accounting team having their eyes on it and checking it over. So even time cards, maybe there's a foreman or a supervisor that checks the time cards before they're sent in to the accounting software for the hours and tracking against the different projects.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about the accounting portion of it and financials portion of it, but for compliancy reasons as well. So for scheduling scheduling a staff on the job, for example, they'll need to have the proper compliancy cards. Those compliancy cards you might be storing, in a different system. So that's where those integrations can help with you having all the information that you need, right, at the right place at the right time, and making sure that you can use the data that you have, and not have to go searching for it. That's really the goal of integration, is that it turns data into usable data. So we get to our third pillar, leveraging automation to remove repetitive tasks. And so there's a lot of, we've been talking about automation all throughout this whole talk, but automation really is to remove those repetitive tasks. You want to be able to have things happening on the back end without you having to go through the manual process, and so that you can focus on other things that you need to deal with. So I go back to my story at the beginning, the client that we've been helping that reduced all that time. A lot of the reasons why we reduce the time is because certain client actions, for example, are going to be on their end. It's no longer part of the business's responsibility. So signing the contract, for example, and scheduling a time in an automated calendar is a client action that must be done. From that point on, the business is going to receive a notification that there's been a booking, but essentially the staff is already booked in that calendar, right? So all of these processes that used to be manual are now automated, and there's really no business action required there. If you have an inventory system, in their case, they do, they will check in the inventory that whatever's been booked or whatever's been selected is available. That's where you have the first manual decision. Is something in stock? Is it not? Then issuing a PO takes a click of a button, right? Processing the payment, if they do have it in stock, is a click of a button. Then they just have to validate the card and process the information, process the payment, and the invoice automatically gets sent. So then they deliver the service is received, and that's it. So really, those manual processes that used to take a lot of time because there's a lot of back and forth with a client is now automated in a way that just doesn't require any action. It's just happening while you're busy doing something else. It really reduces the administrative burden. And Tim, maybe you can talk about that. I know on my end, having all these systems automated has really helped reduce all that office work that can really be time consuming. You can spend a whole day or 2 or 3 in the office, and really you never end up doing what you have to do and developing your business, right? So those automated steps are super important for that.
Yeah, and there's a lot, and what we see is that often companies will have software that there are opportunities to create that automation, but they're not fully utilizing it.
Yeah.
So, and utilization of software is a challenge for most companies. Understanding all of the functionality of any sort of software and what its capabilities are, or not even understanding that there are ways to integrate two different softwares through using something like a Zapier, Zip, Zap, whatever. Who knows how that's correctly pronounced. So there's other ways of doing that, and even down to sometimes you may not have an integration, but you could create a CSV download, and then it's 2 clicks. It creates a CSV in a specific format, and then you upload it into another software really easily rather than re-entering all the data. So creating automations is absolutely like it's a game changer for a lot of companies, and understanding how your software that you already have can automate, or creating new automations is a great time saver.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we want to share one of our partners, On Tracker, has created a little video for us to really see in action what that means on their end. So not every automation looks like this, but this is one way that you can utilize automation there. So
Yeah.
the video doesn't have sound, but
Yeah, well, you can see here they've got what they call no code drag and drop
yeah,
automation. Yeah, automation. So here you can see they've got it's literally just dragging these different automations or these different functions
that's
to
yeah.
create a chain of events. If this happens, then that happens. So you've got approvals, in an email needs to go out. Well, who's the email go to? You can create then those automations through this drag and drop no code programming. And of course, this company, trying to figure this out, you need to learn it first, but it's not that difficult. And because it's visual, you're able to see how to utilize it and how to maybe change the templates that you're given on the front end that you start with, because obviously the company, or we're not going to leave you hanging to try and figure out how to create these automations. But once you learn how to do it, you can all sorts of, you can just, like, if you get to a job site and the safety supervisor there wants a copy of your FLHA every day, well, you can easily create an automation to add them into that when your software, when you're signing off on it, and it gets stored in a specific location tagged to your job, but it also sends an email automatically to the site safety officer. So there's tons of different options and different ways that you can utilize those sort of drag and drop automations in this software, this is for sure one of best in class for when it comes to automation and customizing it the way you want it to work. So there's others out there as well, for sure, but this one's really super interesting.
Yeah, and the idea is really to remove those, maybe you're sending the same email constantly to a client at a certain step. That's where the automation can come in handy, where you put in your email template, and it automatically sends it with the right name. Then you're going to have the contract signing. So as soon as they say as soon as you send an email, for example, you'll want to also send the contract signing. That gets automated. That's where you get granular with the level of automation that you want or need for your specific case, which goes back to why we were saying mapping those integrations is super important, so that you know exactly what you want to integrate together and what you want that sequence of actions that you want there. That's super important. So mapping it out first helps when you get to that phase. I was going back to what I was saying at the beginning. It's very deliberate: communication, integration, and automation. You need to go through all three phases to get to the automation. Automation is really the last step. Once you really have a system in place, you have a standard procedure, you've created all your integration mappings, and you have the information connected together. Then you get to that phase where you can just systemize it and automate and get things rolling, so that these sequences are happening without you having to manually do them.
Yeah. In reference to, you talk about standard operating procedures, in a lot of most companies, not a lot of most companies, it's inferred. It's common knowledge. It's like the rules of golf. Everybody plays golf. Everybody knows the rules of golf, but how many golfers have read the rules? Not many, I guarantee you. So what's really important is getting those standard operating procedures, mapping them out, showing the data or the workflow. It's different than a data flow. You have a workflow from whether it's invoicing. There's a specific standard operating procedure for invoicing. Who produces the invoice? What are who collects all the different data to make sure that all of the everything is relevant, everything is entered into that invoice, and then how does it get entered into the accounting software or the project management software? Who approves it? And then how it gets forwarded on to the client, and then when is the follow-up on that, etc. So there's a standard operating procedure for that, and if you can map that And then once you have that mapped, everybody understands it. It's visible. It's common knowledge, and it's written down. We like I said, we like to show these nice data flow maps. So we have create workflow maps. There was actually a workflow map there that Audrey showed. So you create those, then people can understand visually, because a lot of people are visual learners. This will also help people to think, oh, wait a minute, maybe we can create an automation for that. And where do approvals need to be? And then you have a really set system so that you don't miss anything. I know that when I had my construction business, I would drop sometimes small projects that I didn't have a standard operating procedure for, because one crew went out for half a day to do something, and I didn't have a system for it, so I might forget, and I didn't bill people for weeks. So that can be a problem. So creating those standard operating procedures that are common knowledge throughout the organization, that are visually easy for everybody to understand, and then they kind of get burned on your understanding, and then being able to um, get into the detail to make those automations.
Yeah, and it's also it helps you as well when you're customizing a project management tool, for example, a project management software that has central information there. So if you have that visualization, you'll be able to better implement. And if you have the standard operating procedures, you'll be able to put that in place a lot more effectively into the digital into your digital operating workflow. So we get to towards the end. We're navigating towards the end of this presentation. So there's a lot of benefits to the three pillars: communication, integration, and automation of project management. Right? You streamline your process. You have data accessibility, but useful data accessibility. So you're using information that can help you take decisions more effectively. That can help you. That can help you for the future, for future estimations. Maybe that's the case. Collaboration effectiveness between your teams, where they're no longer having to send each other emails and waiting on a back and forth to have access to information. They have a central place to go find client or project information. Time savings. You save a lot of time by having some automated processes in place, not having to re-enter information twice. You get cost reductions in the end game. Going through all of this, time savings equals cost reductions. You're obviously saving a lot of saving a lot of money by having these processes in place, because you can also concentrate on the things that really do matter, right? On developing your business and on taking care of what you do best, rather than focusing on that administrative burden that is not useful for anyone, really.
Yeah, and on the front end, looking at um, the data collection from the field, going back to that and getting all those data points, then being able to have that information presented to you in different ways, because it's automatically going into the project management or business construction management software. Being able to look at dashboards and understand where your profitability lines are, or where your profitability lines are not. So understanding, whether it's down to an individual, up to, or a different crew, is it a specific type of work? All of those things. What are the profit centers, and where are we just spinning our wheels and barely making any profit? Helps you make decisions on the type of jobs that you're going to bid on in the future, so that you know that that's the type of job that we're going to be most profitable at. Having that information being collected and collated all in one place and presented to you, so you can understand how to best function your business. That has been a huge game changer I've seen for clients of ours in the past. And I think that that communication is the first part of the communication. I think is the best, but then just the time savings involved in these integrations and automations, and not working in silos, and everybody has full visibility in your organization into all the information is incredibly powerful. It creates great efficiency, and we all know efficiency is profitability. So we're last couple of minutes here. We got a few minutes. I don't know if anybody has any questions. You want to raise your hand or just type them in the chat. We have a bunch going on. I mean, anything else? So I guess it's really just final words, really. Anything else you wanted to touch on? Other than I'm making markups on the, on the slideshow. I'm really good at Zoom. We don't use Zoom a lot. We're a Google shop. I think it's gone pretty well though. Anyone else? Anyone who's attended here? We have a list of dozen people who are live. We're going to be showing this again. If you have any questions, reach out to us. You can get in touch with us. There's a QR code somewhere, or obviously you're going to you can find us on our social media or on our website. We're in the business of helping contractors and construction industry, whether that's, like I said, on the front end, architects, engineers, construction across the board. We can help create this communication, integration, and automations for your business. We have lots of was it like 300 different softwares that we have demoed in the past few years. We are up to speed constantly on the newest software coming out. We have a great team of people right across the country to help any size business. So we hope everybody found this informative. And can everybody see the QR code so you can go through to our? I can't see it because I'm a presenter probably, but okay, great. You can all see it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And yeah, please feel free to get in touch with us if you have anything else you'd like to know about or any services we can help you with. And we will be doing more webinars like this, or in the coming weeks, we're going to work with our partners to present their different software solutions, but also we will be hosting our own internal webinars like this where our team talk about different tactics, softwares, how to choose them. And we haven't even come up with the complete list, but we'll be doing those in the coming weeks. We have probably one every week by the looks of things over the next several months. And go to our YouTube channel and you can see those populated. We'll be recording those and putting those up and sending those to all of you here who have attended and anyone else who's signed up. So unless you have anything else, Audrey?
I think that's about it. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here.
And have a great day.